what is the most direct method in which to be in alignment with Source. And that really is what everything that we just offered to you is about. Because you've already done step 1, you've already asked, and Source has already answered step 2. But this question gets to the real nut of what you've got to do. You must be in alignment with Source. And Source is in alignment with your desire. In order for your desire to begin to show itself to you, before you can see evidence of it. Many of you presented questions to us. How can I get from this unwanted place to this? How can I get my lover, who I didn't appreciate at the time, to come back to me? How can I bring our relationship from what it was at the beginning back to what it was at the beginning? How can I make that improvement? How can I get the contractor to come back and finish the job? Or how can I get people to be nicer to me? And what we want to say to you in this very straightforward way is you live always on a continuum between something that you want, or you could say all that you want, or you could say the contents of your vortex, or you could say how your inner being knows you to be, desire. Between what you want and the absence of that. So focus for a moment on a train that is going 100 miles an hour in the direction away from what you want, away from where you want to be, away from who you really are. And you want the train to go 100 miles an hour in the other direction. But we know it is logical to you from your understanding of the physics on your planet that that train is not going to suddenly stop going 100 miles an hour that way and begin to go 100 miles an hour that way. That is illogical in every way in the universe. And we know for sure that you know that. But what you may not be considering is that if you want to go that way and you're going that way, isn't the slowing of the momentum in the opposite direction actually improvement? In other words, even though you haven't begun to go the other way, isn't the slowing of the unwanted improvement? Yes, it is. You must accept that part of the journey from going so fast this way to going this way, that part of the journey is the slowing of this. That's part of the journey too. So you got to give yourself some credit, even though what you want hasn't shown up. You can't see it and hear it and smell it and taste it and touch it, yes. But the fact that you feel a little better, even though it hasn't shown up, because you're focused in a way that feels better to you. If you could cease the comparison of your world to someone else's, or your world to how it used to be, your relationship now to how your relationship was, or your financial situation now as to how it once was, or your financial situation in comparison to someone else's. If you could stop all of that kind of comparison, which is reaching too far too fast, and it's leaving you believing that you can't do it. If you could instead accept that, causing some of those thoughts that hurt so much to come less frequently is improvement. Or some of those thoughts that hurt so much to hurt a little less. In other words, when you really feel bad. Esther knows from her recent experience with shingles, that was a really uncomfortable, physically uncomfortable experience. in what she would describe to you as just about every moment. But she discovered even in that, she could find a second here or two or three. And we got to tell you, she really felt for them. She really felt for enough distraction from her discomfort that she could have even a second of relief. Now that's extreme and it's dramatic, and we're making it more dramatic than it needs to be. But we're saying to you, because we so much want you to hear this, that your work, your only work, is to be aware of how you feel and to be focused in a more determined way on that feeling, reaching for improvement wherever you can find it. Which means don't watch the movies that tear your heart out. Don't go looking for those memories that hurt your feelings. Don't stab yourself in the palm of your hand anymore, or in the heart, or don't hurt yourself unnecessarily with thoughts that you do have the power to at least slow down. And that's what our message is to you today. You've got more power to improve your feeling. No, you can't go from agony to ecstasy all at once. You're not going to do that. We're not going to encourage that you even pretend that you can do that. And we're not going to even ask you, when you're in strong pain, grief, or worry, or physical discomfort, we're not going to ask you to be joyful or to get on the upper half of the scale. But what we are asking you to do is to own where you are and say to yourself in a determined way, I can ease this pain, and that is progress. I can speak this discomfort out loud less often, and that is progress. I can call fewer people in complaining mode, and that is progress. I can sleep a little more. I can meditate more. Now we're getting to the answer to this question. What's the most direct method in which to be in alignment with Source? Quieting your mind in meditation is the most direct way. Putting pause on thoughts that are uncomfortable. But we're not asking you to go directly to Source. We're just asking you to slow your momentum in opposition to Source. We're asking you to render more and more every day inactive those thoughts, those beliefs, which are just thoughts you continue to think, that hurt your heart when you think them. We know your worthiness. We know your capability. We know your potential. We know what's in your vortex. We know what's possible. And we convey it to you again and again and again and again. But you've got to get in the vicinity. You've got to find a way of rendering less and less and less and less and less active those habits of thought that prevent you from momentum in the direction of what you want. And that's the reason many of you wrote in, what's this inactive box that I hear you talking about? I missed it when you were talking about it. And what the inactive box is, it's an exercise, it's a tool, it's a game where you actually take a box, poke a hole in it somewhere. Some people are using tissue boxes that the tissues are finished because they have a nice little hole, or a mailbox. Esther found a banker's box that had holes in the side where her hands would go in. Doesn't matter. It doesn't even have to have a lid on it. All kinds of you're doing all kinds of different things. But it's a container where you can decide to submit in a sort of attitude of letting go of, a sort of symbolic gesture that says with more emphasis, I have decided to render inactive my worry about things I can't do anything about, or my concern about this or that. But we so much want you to, right here, right now, as a result of what you've heard us say already, you are the creator of your own reality, and you can slow the negative momentum. Now, what does that mean? Abraham, that's not a very positive conversation. Thought you were all about the upper half of the scale. We've been saying to you for a long time, you can hold a cork under the water. That's what negative emotion is. But when you let go of it, it's going to bob back up to the surface. And that's who you are. That's where you belong. That's where your inner being is. Up there at the surface. Up there in the pure positive energy. Up there where clarity and joy and love are. That's who you are. That's where you belong. And if you were not doing that thing you do that holds you in a different place, that's where you would be. That's where you were when you were born. That's where you were when you decided to come into this experience. That's where you would be every moment of every day if you were not thinking thoughts that are in opposition to that worthiness that is you, to that knowing that is you, to that love that is you. You just can't look at something and condemn it, or someone and hate them, or at someone and criticize them, or at something and fear it. You can't do those things without holding your cork under the water. And so the inactive box is a way that little by little, you let go of more and more of those things that you've picked up along your physical trail, that you learned from your teachers, and you learned from your mother, and you learned by observing. You learned from physical humans who had also forgotten their own worthiness, their natural propensity for love and joy. This is easier than you are letting it be. You have habits of thought that you can let go of. It's easier than you think. You've just got to take it in smaller, bite-sized pieces. You got to be nicer to yourself. You've got to be nicer to others. You got to go easier about everything. You've got to slow down the momentum that is moving you in opposition to what you want. You've just got to slow it down. You don't have to make it perfect. The law of attraction will make it perfect. It's already been made perfect in your vortex. But don't plead with your inner being to save you. The saving has already happened. Decide for yourself that you're going to do a better job of focusing, a more deliberate job of focusing. So what's the most direct method in which to be in alignment with Source? Most direct is to meditate and quiet your mind. Because when you quiet your mind, you stop thought. And when you stop thought, all resistance stops. And when the resistance stops, you begin moving in the direction of what you want. You could also take a nap. That would do it. You could listen to music that makes your heart sing. That would do it. There are all kinds of things that you can do that slow the momentum that is preventing you from your alignment. And then there are some things you can do that really turn up the gas, put your pedal to the metal, get your momentum going in the direction of what you want. That's a whole other conversation, though, isn't it? All right.